And as promised, more analysis now coming your way with political analyst Thobani Zikalala, who joins us to further unpack this move by the ANC to reconfigure its structures in KwaZulu-Natal as well as here in Gauteng. We're still awaiting the announcement on that particular leadership in Gauteng. This following, of course, an alarming dip in support in those two outlined provinces. And party SG Fikile Mbalula announced the new leadership in KwaZulu-Natal a short while ago. So Nyamazane, a very good afternoon to you. So let's first talk about the newly reconfigured ANC KZN leadership. Who do you think will be able to, basically take the party back to its former glory in that particular province?
Good afternoon, Aisha, and good afternoon to your viewers. I think if you look at that leadership, first of all, it's a very bloated leadership. I mean, if you look at 67 members, that's close to an NEC of the ANC, and if you look at 67 members, that's close to two PECs of two provinces. It's a very bloated number of leadership, and it also it gives an indication that there was a lot of discussions around trying to balance, the different groups of interest inside the party, knowing, of course, the ANC and its history of factions. And, of course, also it brings back many, leaders who may have been, almost forgotten. If you look at the likes of Spoon Debele, Jeff Khatebe, and many others, Wesley Tuse and others, who may have not been formed part of the recent elected leadership of the province. Of course, I think that's the direction being taken there is to bring back experience. But on the other hand, I think we must welcome, if you look at the appointment of people like Thandokolo Sabelo, Kwazim Sheng, Odesi Duma, younger comrades younger leaders of the ANC who I think will bring the necessary political agility that the ANC needs to respond to the crisis that it faces. Because the ANC may not have a crisis of personalities. And I think that's where I wanted to play, that the ANC is maybe have misdiagnosed their problem. That the ANC does not face, a very big problem of leadership. Yes, of course, there is a problem at that level, but their biggest problem is not their personalities or leadership. The biggest problem of the ANC is that the ANC is losing its legitimacy, credibility, and the goodwill of the people. And why is it doing that? It's because the ANC has not, fulfilled on its political mission to fully liberate this country and make sure that the people of this country benefit from the tentacles of the freedom that they promise. And this, of course, has been heavily criticized in this country, and this is evident in terms of what the result of the recent elections are in that regard. And I think the ANC, if the current leadership of the ANC will be able to diagnose that problem and be able to provide solutions on how the ANC continues, as espouses, continues to be a leader of society and continues to be the leader of the liberation cause of this country. Other than that, they can chop and change many different types of leaders, but if they don't have a real diagnosis of what is it that has swayed them away from what is their political mission of what they had promised, I think in that way they will assist themselves. But I think the biggest thing is that in terms of your question, the biggest thing is at least they've tried to marry different generations of the ANC who will be able to speak to different constituencies in the province. Whether or not they will be able to manage their many different political infighting that have happened in the province, then we wait to see. Because if you look at that list, it shows you that there was a lot of management of political interest. Even in the fact that this PTT as it's been called, if you look at the fact that normally a PTT will be announced, and then of course it will sit its own first meeting, and then they will assign each other tasks. I think for the management of conflict and unnecessary ructions, I think the NDC simply took a decision to appoint everyone to a different task, so that there is no, in the first few months, there is no fighting for overpositions and things like that.
We're going to get into more about your misdiagnosis theory, Thobani, but just on that point that you've just made now, some have been raising the issue of how does the party, in its reiterating that it's actually doing this in line with its constitution, actually remove elected leadership well before their terms have actually come to an end, in essence disbanding the current structures. I know you spoke about not wanting the the new leadership versus the old leadership to have any factions or any fractures or ruptures as they go and prepare for the upcoming elections. But I mean, how is that going to look? Because in essence, the other structure has just been disbanded.
I think, of course, the ructions are going to be there. This is the ANC we're speaking about. If anyone believes that there will be just political peace and it will be kumbaya and they will go into elections, of course, go to the electoral conference without any possibilities of any infighting, then that person does not understand the ANC as we've come to understand it. The ANC is a contested terrain and it's going to be contested. But of course, I mean, the constitution of the ANC allows national leadership and senior leadership of the party to dissolve structures. The only confusing part here is that the NEC of the ANC, because I think they were afraid, I mean, to come out clearly that they want to disband or dissolve the structures, they came up with new terms. But as it becomes synonymous with the current leadership's era of the ANC, where different terms are used to describe the things that we already know in a particular way. What has happened here is that the elected PEC of the ANC, the last elected PEC of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, and of course we're going to see it in Gauteng, has been dissolved. And the constitution of the ANC allows this. And then, of course, that there must be a rich structuring or an appointment of a provincial trust team so that it can take the ANC into an electoral conference where it can elect leadership. What they've done here is that they've maintained or retained a majority of the elected leadership and absorb them into this new structure. The only thing that they've done is that, of course, the provincial secretary, who Begim Tole, has been removed from the provincial secretary office. But we know in the political office, in the convenership, the provincial chairperson has been resigned, and of course they've brought back the former deputy secretary of the province, if I'm not mistaken, a former PEC member of the ANC, to be a provincial coordinator, Mrs. Nomsa Dube. And of course, they brought in people like Jeff Khatib, who, of course, I mean, in our understanding, do not have a history of being ahead of the structure. Of course, they may have experience as leaders of the ANC who have worked in different territories and different political situations, but they've not have been political heads. I mean, they have been heads of the policy for commission of the ANC and things like that, but they've never been a political head. And also because they've been outside of the political leadership at that level for some time. I don't know whether or not those people will be able to respond to the current crisis the ANC faces in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and in the country, because what the ANC is facing in KwaZulu-Natal is not just a peculiar problem of the KwaZulu-Natal.
True.
It's a problem of South Africa. The state formation of the ANC post-1994, as it has been formed, has come under criticism. And the result of that criticism is the ANC losing its majority support in the country. And if the ANC wants to diagnose properly its problems, it must start there. What has made them to be in that position? Because this idea that the problem is the fact that they didn't have leadership. Of course, there may have been a leadership crisis. I mean, we've seen in KwaZulu-Natal things that we have never seen before, the state of the ANC. But the biggest problem is not who the ANC leads, who leads the ANC, is whether or not the ANC still can stand firm and say to the people of South Africa that they are still on the political mission they promised, and also they can say that the state formation that they formed post-1994 is still the correct state formation to run this country. This is where the ANC must respond, and I don't think the ANC has responded correctly in that.
Thobani, you spoke about misdiagnosis. So basically the ANC went into this process with the aim of course, assisting the structures get back to its former glory, right? And I mean, looking at the current leadership that has been appointed, I mean, you raise very good issues there. Like, I mean, your Spoon Debeles, Nhlakanipho, Ntombela, and so forth. I mean, with the Dumamtolo basically also being removed at the helm and the reintroduction of provincial leadership in the form of Dr. Dlomo and others. If you actually look at how the party performed during their provincial tenures, I mean, do you think they still have any say in terms of, or any handle in terms of swaying the members and say the Zuma faction, as well as the growth of his MK party? Because until they admit where their actual issues started, then they can actually correctly diagnose what their real issues are. Because just putting in Jeff Khatebe there, Spoon Debele, I mean, I fail to see how he's going to stand against the likes of the former premier of the province and former party member like Willis Mchunu, as well as Nkosinathi Nhleko.
think, I mean, at the level of politics, right? At the level of politics, I think the ANC has really, I don't think they've properly diagnosed their problem. And I think they've misdiagnosed their problem. And as I've maintained, that their problem is a political problem, is about how they've run the state and how the state that they proposed post-1994 and things like that. And that state have come under criticism. And if you look in terms of where they lose their votes to, you will see that that's a problem. But the problem is also, I think what they're also trying to do is to try to bring back some level of respectability to the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Because, of course, if on the other side you are contesting like with people like your Willis Mchunu and others who may have some level of respectability that they have on the province, in one hand, someone may have thought that we must bring in people who have got that level of respectability, which is why, for example, someone like Bundabele, who has been in an ambassadorship for some time, is brought back to be part of the political leadership. He's a former provincial chairperson of the province. I mean, and as a convener, you've got Jeff Khateb, of course, as I said, who's a former head of the policy commission of the ANC. You are trying to bring some level of respectability and some sort of stability and order. Because another problem of the previous the disbanded PEC was the idea that they were everywhere but nowhere, in the sense that there was an idea that the center was not holding, that they were disorderly, that they did not enjoy the respect of the people of the province. And this is because of many things that they may have done, or some things that they perceive to have not have done properly. But our problem is that it seems that the ANC does not want to reimagine itself anew into looking into the political space that they find themselves in now, to try and reconvince the people of the province that they can still solve the particular problems of the province. I think what they want to do is they want to maintain the order of the past and to maintain what they've been known about, in a sense that they want to bring back the so-called senior leaders who may be respected, who may have a history, where I think also a disbandment, we have given an opportunity to bring back, to give new faces an opportunity to lead the party, in particular because I think they have very talented young people who are in the province who maybe will have, if given an opportunity, they will have been able to revive the ANC and give it the necessary political agility that it needs. But of course, we wait and see how this performs. We don't want to be prophets of doom and cast aspersions on this leadership. But I don't think I have the utmost confidence that they'll be able to get the ANC where it wishes to get.
Thobani, as always, thank you so much for your input. Mr. Thobani Zikalala is a political analyst weighing in there on the newly announced reconfigured ANC KZN PEC.